Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on our Black Civic Leadership panel in honor of Black History Month. I'm very excited. We have a really, really great panel joining us today. I'd like to introduce myself. I am Stacey Shapiro. I am the Youth Engagement Specialist at United Activities Unlimited for the Summer Youth Employment Program. And I'm joined today by my co-facilitator, Janera. So I'd like to give you a chance to introduce yourself too before we introduce our panelists.
Hi, my name is Janera Dale. I'm the Service Learning and Volunteer Coordinator with UAU's Learn and Earn program, and I'm ecstatic to be here today and have a wonderful conversation with our wonderful panelists.
Great, thank you, of course, for lending a helping hand. Janera, we have a really big panel, so I'm excited to talk to all of you. I'd like to give everyone a chance, of course, to introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about yourselves, what your organization, what you do, and starting just on the order of my screen, let's start with Abu Sai.
Hi, Stacy. Hi, everyone. So it's such a privilege to be here again. And I know, many of these faces are familiar to me. And I say hi to you and to your respective family. My name is Abu Si Jahade. I'm an organizer and, an advocate for the past few years and representing here the African Coalition Alliance of Staten Island. And again, thank you for inviting me to this setting and in the month of celebration, of course, for the Black Story Month.
Yes, of course. Thank you for being here. Detective, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Detective Kiana Rios. I'm one of the community affairs officers at the 120th Precinct, for those who don't know me. Thank you for having me. Look forward to engaging with you guys in a good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Would you like to say a few words, Kevin?
Hello, thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Walton. I am the acting president of the Young Leaders of Staten Island, and we're a newly formed grassroots organization. And the main things that we like to focus on is civic engagement, racial equity, and fighting against racial inequality. Unifying the diverse communities on Staten Island in a one together, all together mentality, and as well as political action. Thank you for having me.
Of course, thanks for being here, Kevin. Good to see you again. Judge Greg, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'd just like to thank you, Stacey, and UAU having my participation in this panel. It's great to be amongst all these luminaries on the panel, and hopefully we'll have a engaging and a very active conversation.
Yes, of course, I'm very excited. Dr. Carolina?
Demetrius Carolina, Executive Director of the Central Family Life Center, pastor of the First Central Baptist Church. Just glad to be amongst you all as well. This is a phenomenal panel. And UAU, thank you both for the facilitator, both of you facilitators, and certainly Michelle as well, who we have had opportunity to work with on different levels and different activities. Looking forward to a good conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Carolina. I know we're all looking forward to. And Tanisha?
Good afternoon. My name is Tanisha Franks. I am an educator and currently I am an education liaison for the United Federation of Teachers. I have been active in the Staten Island community as a native Staten Islander for a really, really long time, telling my age there. And I'm so excited to have been invited to participate. It's so good to see you all, even in this remote world. Seeing your familiar and happy faces brings great joy. Looking forward to the conversation.
Great, thank you, Tanisha. And again, thank you so much to everyone for being here, for taking the time on your Wednesday afternoon. I'd like to sort of start by giving a little run of show. So we're going to have a little panel discussion. We have some pre-prepared questions we're going to ask everyone. But then, of course, all of our participants in the audience, feel free to put a question in the chat as they come up, and we will make sure to get to them. We're hoping to have a little Q&A session towards the end. And of course, we will also be fielding questions from our Facebook audience as well. So I'd like to open up with a sort of broad generic question, but since this panel is a civic leadership panel in honor of Black History Month, I'd like to give everyone a chance to speak on, in your experience and your perspective, what is civic leadership? And I will go first to Judge Greg. What is civic leadership to you?
Well, basically, it's the ability of an individual to reach out to his community and give them leadership and guidance. It's not predicated upon job title. It's basically based upon someone's own experience. Experientially, I've come from several backgrounds. I used to be a police officer. I used to be a administrator. Um, I recently retired as a judge, and now I'm running the largest Black um, community and, shall we say, uh, job endowment for the Staten Island Black Minority Chamber. So hopefully, with this experience, we are reaching out to the youth and also business-oriented people in Staten Island and try to bring them to the fold, especially during this pandemic. Unemployment soared to almost 18%. Uh, there is reputed 60% loss of Black and minority-owned businesses in Staten Island. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot of catching up, and hopefully with the new administration, they'll be able to give us some bootstrap abilities to reach out to the community.
Very well put. Thank you, Judge Greg. Dr. Carolina.
All right, hello. Civic engagement or really means working together to make a difference in a community, right, in which you live and serve. And it means bringing to bear your skills, your talents, experiences, and the skills and resources of others in a collaborative way to bring about that change. And that can happen in many ways, as something as simple as volunteering to something about working possibly in healthcare and bringing your education to bear in terms of the issues of equity, healthcare equity, as we see exacerbated because of the pandemic. So it can go from the gamut, but it really is about bringing about some change, some positive change for the greater good.
That's a wonderful point, especially in terms of equity. Tanisha, from in your experience, what are your thoughts in terms of equity, and also in your own perspective, what is civic leadership?
So in order for us to talk about civic leadership, we have to have an understanding of what civics is. And so, when we think about what civics is and the importance of civics, it's really the all-encompassing existence of citizenship. So if you have a citizenship, then there are going to be realms that they are engaged in. So that's going to be education, that's going to be finance. And so civic leaders actually have the job, the work, engage in the work of progress and citizenship, right? And so as we in this country, as Americans who have the promise of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That is supposed to be something that is given to all. Those people who are in leadership roles, that's the work of making sure that that is true and that that is realized, and then pushing, because what we know, especially in our experience as Americans, is that that's ongoing work in progress, because it's easy to say those things, but sometimes it really doesn't exist. And it's not just here. It's historically, that's the way that, humans happen to interact with each other. If it just happens to be that way, if you give people an opportunity to exist, sometimes there are issues. And so being civic minded and having civic leadership is about making sure that things like equity, making sure that things like people are being fed and people are having healthy experiences are actually happening. So being a leader in civics is working towards progress.
Those are some very wonderful points. Thank you, Tanisha. To your point, Abu Sai, what sort of additions or additional thoughts do you have into what Tanisha said and what everyone else said in what the role of a civic leader is?
Thank you again, Stacy. And as a social worker, I think I will bring a different set of tones when it comes to that word of leadership. And just to tell you that leadership is meaningless without engagement. And what we mean by engagement is to constantly be part of the process, in your different area of interest. And I think Dr. Carolina said it all, and all of you basically, and be able to make a difference. You can make a difference in different way. And yes, civic engagement has a lot of requirements. First of all, responsibility toward yourself. You have to mean what you do, and be genuine on it. And I heard a lot of my colleagues here raise the fact that, let's say, equity is very important because we all fighting inequality and improving the social justice system. And that also help us to provide some sort of protections to people and people as a whole, as a group, one community, one body, which we have tendency to measure progress made, where we make sure that nobody is left behind. This is what I mean by saying, leadership and engagement. Now, as a social worker, I believe in something we call unconditional positive regard. We all, you know, uh, 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 are in the dynamic of improving, what we call, social justice. And social justice is not about the word, it's about, let's say, providing food to those who are struggling to put a food on the table, those who are actually struggling even to be part of the process. It's basically one way to empower, is one way to identify also those who are really making sure that the word improvement is being seen in the community. So it doesn't happen overnight for someone to say, hey, I'm a civic leader. Yes, people say, yes, I'm a leader. Yes, we're all leaders. But again, to make sure that it has to be comprehensive. Some of them mention, let's say, the healthcare system. Some people say, I'm a health advocate. Some people will say, I'm doing my best to make sure that resources are available in the community when it comes to immigration services. As a co-chair of the Staten Island Immigrant Council, I make sure that those targeted groups are well fed and are really be able to access any kind of services available in my community. This is really my perspective when it comes to civic engagement and leadership.
As you said it, that was a very comprehensive answer, but I'm pretty sure that rings true for everyone here, everyone watching, so thank you. I think equity is definitely something that we must continue fighting towards. And I know, Kevin, you mentioned that you, as the acting president of the Young Leaders of Staten Island, what other additional thoughts and insights would you like to add?
Yes, I would just love to say I agree with everything all of the wonderful panelists have said. But in terms of, a youth and how can a youth be civic, can show civic leadership and civic engagement, I believe is simply taking an initiative to make a change in your immediate environment or community. So making a change in your community, forming a step team, organizing some young boys in order to go play basketball at a certain time. Those are the different things that you can do in your own capacity as a young person that is showing leadership and civic engagement, because civic engagement is, being a part of your community, taking initiative to be a leader in whatever way that you can possibly do it. It's really about making a positive change. And I really want to just encourage the young people that no change is small. No change is small. All positive change is great. So whatever you can do in your way and using your imagination, because a lot of times, the young people have imaginations. We want to foster those imaginations, whatever imaginative things that you can do in order to make a difference. That's what I believe civic leadership and engagement is for our young people.
Very true point. Thank you, Kevin. And like you mentioned, it's really a lot of it goes back into that community and working together. So I'd like to give a chance to Detective Rios. You, as a member of the Community Affairs Bureau, in your experience, how do you feel that you portray civic leadership?
In terms of me personally, I believe that civic leadership looks like identifying and utilizing your time, your talents, and abilities to improve the quality of life of the community in which you serve, live, and that could be any capacity. And that's why it's important for each individual to kind of identify what you're passionate about early. I love how Kevin talked about starting youth basketball teams or starting a step team, because starting to find out who you are as an individual is what makes you so vital and important to the whole, to the community as a leader.
Great, yeah, thank you.
I love those very, very insightful answers. You all are very inspiring for a person who's very interested in civic engagement myself. And I kind of want to throw my next question, starting off with Kevin. Just because of this background, we are in the wonderful, beautiful short month of February. And as we all know, that is Black History Month. We are living it, we are loving it. And I want to ask you all, what historical Black figures or civic leaders inspire you or motivated you to get into the work that you do now?
Thank you. To be honest, um, the leader that has inspired me throughout my lifetime has been Martin Luther King Jr. Um, and I would like to start off by saying this. I've come to realize in today's day and age, because of our experiences and because of our own timeline, we can't fully and truly understand the sacrifices and the change that he put in place. Um, and sometimes it's hard to truly understand dealing with, and talking to my peers. Sometimes we see what's going on in the current state of our country, and we say, not a lot has changed. There hasn't been a lot of change coming from that time. And I would say I have to disagree, me being a young person, and I have a different perspective, because the things that he's done and the things that so many others did alongside him is a reason why we're able to be on the Zoom right now and have a platform to be able to speak without there being direct hate, put in front of our faces. And the reason why we face the hidden obstacles and not the obstacles that was right there in front of their faces. So he's honestly the inspiration and of me. He was a man who stood in the face of hate and preached love, forgiveness, and peace, while at the same time choosing to fight. He just understood that, the fight is really internal. Sometimes us as humans get caught up in a physical showing of power. Yet he was a man who dealt with the inner man, where we really become truly powerful. And that sometimes I truly believe that war that goes on inside is harder than the one that's fought on the battlefield. And that's the war that's really most important, because if you can come to terms with yourself, then you can start to affect others and create the change. There's a saying, be the change that you want to see. And that takes you going down that moral road, going down your character and your integrity, and dealing with yourself first, so that you can make the change for others and hopefully help others change themselves.
Thank you, Kevin. I definitely do not regret starting off with that wonderful tidbit. I definitely do agree, as being a young person, a lot of us are at that point where we are hopeless. And it is always wonderful to see another young person who is willing to say, like, we fought a good fight then, and we can still fight a good fight now. I'm going to go ahead and pop it over to Tanisha. I saw a nice little smile on your face, so I feel like you have great things to say.
Thank you. I just love young people so much. So I just I get excited to see that, and it connects to my actual answer, because you're never gonna see a job posting for a civic leader. And in fact, so it's not like you can, put a application in, I want to be a civic leader, and you usually find that it just so happens. And I personally rejected the term leader, and had people like kind of like poke me to say, this is what a leader is, this is how you're showing up, like knock it off. So my answer is going to be Debbie Rose. And the reason is because I came upon her journey while I was doing some graduate work for my master's. I started off doing a project for Black educators on Staten Island. I eventually had to abandon my thesis because it was really difficult, and I just and this is a Black history conversation, so I think this is important to state. As Black people, specifically on Staten Island, we don't do a great job of keeping records, and so as a scholar, it became very arduous. There are people who can do that work, and in my conversations with Debbie early on, a lot of people may not realize that Debbie is an educator by craft. Her credentials is in education. She would have been a teacher if not for the the teachers, the layoffs of the 70s. They weren't really hiring, and so she went into other civic work. People don't realize that Debbie has been doing this work forever. Really, she's an unsung hero, and trying to put together which would have been an oral history of Black educators on Staten Island, because again, the primary documents weren't there. I had to speak to people, and my first interaction with her was during that time where she shared with me her entire journey, and it's amazing what she has done in terms of prior to being elected, how she started this work as, probably like Kevin now. So like when you meet Debbie Rose, understand that she's been doing this since she was Kevin's age. And she is only, getting elected, towards, decades later, I will say, because to me, she's young and vibrant, and I'm ready for her to take on something else, right? So, but she definitely was involved for decades, and she never gave up. I was astonished to find out one of the accolades given to women on Staten Island is the Women of Achievement Award, and Debbie got hers like in her third term, I think, as the first Black elected official on Staten Island. And when they read her bio, which I was familiar with, I was looking around the room, and I really was like, yeah, she did all of that. And you ignored her, and you didn't give her the space, and you know what I mean? But she never ever stopped, and she never ever she smiles from ear to ear. She doesn't have an attitude. She doesn't carry a chip on her shoulder. So I really like when you see me, understand that you're seeing someone who's standing on the shoulder of a giant.
I think that was an ode. I don't know if you meant it to be that, but that was an ode to Debbie Rose, and I am always here for it. I'm so glad that we can elevate people in this wonderful month through these conversations. And I'm going to pop over to Dr. Carolina because I'm so curious to hear who you're going to tell us about now.
Well, after hearing Tanisha and Kevin, I don't know, but the truth of the matter is, I can relate to both what Tanisha said, and because I love Debbie, and certainly she's a large part of our work that we do in terms of civic engagement and leadership in Staten Island. And certainly I can relate to what Kevin has said, because I started as a minister, licensed in ministry at the age of 16. And I'm just a little older than 16 now. So you can imagine. But my person is Willie Carolina. Willie is my grandfather. In the absence of my father, who, if he walked through the door now and shook my hand, would be the first time I've met him. Willie had a third grade education, and with having had to leave the South because of some terrible and unjust racism, came to the North and raised 5 children and many other people's children, worked for 35 years as a tool maker, built a trade, was a phenomenal example to me of what it meant to be a man who was loving and caring, and yet extremely, extremely strong and full of tenacity, and explained to me why my name is Carolina and not Solomon. And why, when I teach a class, most people come in the room looking for a female professor, and here I am sitting or standing in the room. It is just a personal, interpersonal, but yet because of the work of Willie Carolina, I can stand on his shoulders and continue to try to model. I'm nowhere near what he was, but to try to model the phenomenal man that he was and continues to be as long as we live, his children and children's children. So that's my answer.
I always say that in Black History Month, we always support a wonderful narrative of Black civic leaders and Black people who have accomplished worldwide scene accomplishments. And honestly, I always wonder, why don't we support the members of our village more? The people who paved the way for us, our ancestors who laid the foundations to the houses that we now live in. And I think it's wonderful that we can sit here and share this story of your grandfather and appreciate all that he's done. And also a major shout out to him for bringing you to us. So I will always be extremely grateful to Willie Carolina, even though I've never met him. I'm going to go ahead and pop over to Judge Greg.
Okay, I think I have two individuals that I consider really inspirational to my life, and that's because of my background. The first would be Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall, he was the first African American that was selected for the Supreme Court as a justice. My background goes to the fact that I was also the Assistant General Counsel for the NAACP, and Thurgood Marshall used to be the General Counsel of the NAACP prior to being elevated to the Supreme Court. That's one. The other one would be Noah. Not too many people know. To be the Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Correction, overseeing Rikers Island. And when I met Nelson Mandela in 1992, when he came to, and he was celebrated by Mayor Dave Dinkins in City Hall, and they had a big ceremony. What astounded me was the fact that this icon spent 27 years in a South African prison. And we talked about what it looked like and the relationship of Rikers Island to South African prisons were amazing. And he was such a man of insightful intent and knowledge. It really touched me, and it gave me a different look on how I would control and run Rikers Island. And as you know, it's something like 30 years too late. And at this point, we need to have a way to deal with the adjunct violence that is happening in Rikers Island, the youth that are being brutalized in Rikers Island, but still have some type of way of maintaining safety and control for those individuals that have to be incarcerated. So I would say Thurgood Marshall and Nelson Mandela.
Absolutely wonderful. I feel like I haven't spoke about Thurgood Marshall in such a long time, and I feel like we don't elevate his accomplishments nearly enough in modern day conversations. And so I really thank you for reminding me of what a wonderful man he was and all of the things that he accomplished and the wonderful roads that he paved. I'm going to go ahead and pop over to Abusai and kind of let you share with us who your Black civic leader is.
Thank you, Jay. So I was just laughing because when I heard Judge Ronald say Nelson Mandela, I was kind of like, oh, a lot of things has echoed to me, and I will not change my mind because I'm going to stick to him. And I'm originally from Senegal, as you know, all of you. And Nelson Mandela, what he has done, not saying, in the motherland, in the African continent, freed many of our fellows, but I think his legacy is recognized worldwide. And if I take the Black History Month, this event really is intended to recognize actually the contribution and achievement of people like Nelson Mandela and many of them actually in the world, known or unknown, even in our respective community, who have fought for justice. And I think when it comes to civic engagement, really leaders, a lot of things that echoes to me is one of the famous quote of Nelson Mandela, who said that it's always seemed impossible until it's done. What it shows there is the characteristic of a leader. One of them, many of my fellow mentors and friends have already mentioned it. What we look when it comes to the characteristic of servant of leadership, what we think of. Nelson Mandela has really fostered racial reconciliation, in South Africa. As a president, all of you know that he has demonstrated a remarkable leadership qualities. And many of us, the young generation in school, we learn from him. Even in Africa, everywhere in the world, in Europe, we were able really to capture, his advocacy role, especially for peace, and also for his powerful presence, to disarm enemies who were not really in there for peace. And I think the key word here is really all of you, because we are an agent of change. But change has to be really measured in a positive way, where the end result should be peace. Because without peace, we cannot sit here talk about community engagement, community development, and so called. I served in the United Nations for almost 6 years. I worked for the Department of Peacekeeping Operation. And what was mission is just to promote peace and security. And without peace and security, we cannot talk about healthcare. We cannot talk about, a fair justice system, because all institutions are down. And today, I think also it's a day where we can also talk about the challenge that we're facing, because it's a day of celebration, but also it's an opportunity for us to learn from each other, also to measure a progress made. What are those challenges that we are facing? And what are the recommendations that we make as civil leaders, way forward? And I think it's a moment where we all reflect on those who have fought and those who have struggled, to free us, to help us to be where we are together today, so we can reflect on it. This is my take on it.
Thank you so much. It was definitely a hot take. And I don't want to say the least of all, but definitely the last for this question. I want to pop it over to Detective Rios. I've seen you had a smile on your face when I first started asking this question. You've been animated listening to every answer. Who is your Black civic leader that you admire?
I was definitely smiling. I love Tanisha speaking about Councilmember Debbie Rose. She is definitely a modern empowerment to all women. Just seeing her in action, and like she said, all the things that she did. But my person that I want to talk about, I grew up in Crown Heights. I don't know if anybody knows, Richard Green is my person. And even ever since I was a little kid, he ran something called the Crown Heights Youth Collective, which was a community center for kids. He planted our first community garden, and we were all a part of it. The kids that went to the youth collective, the kids that went to IA 320, he was there bridging the gap and making sure that we were safe during the Crown Heights riots. He was always there. Even outside youth collective, he would put food for the community. He taught us what it means to be engaged in our community. Even the site where the youth collective used to be is now an extension of Mega Evans College. He opened up another community center, still in the same community, serving the same community, but just everything that he did for us as kids, making sure we were safe. Our community was predominantly working parents. Our parents were working, so we were home. So if we were home and we had nothing to do, we go to the youth collective. And it was always something engaging for us to do. And what made the youth collective so special was the connection to being Black and being of African descent. He made sure that we knew that we weren't just Black, that we were of African descent. And he has this amazing collection of like African art and sculptures that he has displayed all over the collective. And when I became a police officer, we have once a year, a huge gathering at One Police Plaza for Black History Month, hosted by our many fraternal organizations, Halifo, the NYPD Guardians, which I'm a part of, so many Black organizations within the police department, Noble to mention, there's a few more also that are involved in it. It's a huge celebration every year. And my first year there, in the back of the auditorium with a nice, beautiful table set up and all his beautiful art was Richard Green. And I was like, are you really here? And it was one of those moments where it was just like watching how everything comes together, every part of you, all the seeds he planted in us as children and how they grow and how we become different people, and how he always maintained a link between the police department as a community leader up until today. I love him.
Thank you so much for sharing that. As a young girl from Brooklyn, I will always appreciate it. Always love to hear about the wonderful work that we have going on across the borough. And I'm glad to see that that little bit of Brooklyn spread out into Staten Island, and now you're doing wonderful things there as well. I want to pop over to our next question because I feel like this is something that we're kind of circling around, and I want to just go ahead and drive straight on in. What does civic engagement look like in the communities that we live in and that we're serving in? We talk a lot about what our civic leaders are doing and what they're supposed to be accomplishing, but what about the communities that they serve? I'll actually leave this to whoever wants to start, because I feel like there could be a hot take on this. I don't want to hold anyone back.
If no one else will jump in, I'll jump in real quick and simply say, it looks like self-determination. It looks like affording people an opportunity to drive their own way. It looks like respecting people enough to look through, to have the ability, at least the willingness to look through their lenses, to take off your lenses and to at least attempt to understand what they see, how they see it. It looks to me like cultural competency. It looks to me like Black and brown folks in schools, in Black and brown communities, empowering Black and brown children, and not simply other folks driving in the morning, making $1 and driving out in the afternoon after the work hour is done. I know this might be a bit edgy for some folks, but to me, it really looks like loving and caring about people, not simply because they're Black and brown, but because they are part of the humanity of us all. To me, it looks like empowering people to love themselves where they are, and then allowing them to rise up from that place. Now, that can take on a whole lot of forms in the practical, but that's what it looks like, at least to me.
I love that take on the question. I definitely do believe that empowering people to accept their current seats and enabling them to feel empowered in the seats that they are currently in is something that is growing in conversation, but still is not elevated enough. Kevin, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Absolutely. I would love to piggyback off what Dr. Demetrius Carolina said. When he was talking, I was just hearing, genuine and intention. Those are the two words that came to my mind. Is just really truly being genuine and why you are doing things. No matter, what level you are at, truly, being genuine and making the difference that you want to see. And then also having the right intention, not getting lost along the way of you doing what you want to do and impacting the lives that you're going to impact, but having the right intention, knowing why you're doing that, and then driving forward in order to do those things. That's really what that means to me.
Thank you. Abu Said, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, actually, what it looked like is really the setting that we are today. Very colorful, and a setting where which promote inclusion and diversity. If I look at myself, I think I wouldn't be here today without the role played by many of you sitting there, including Dr. Carolina, Judge Ronalds, detectives, all of us, we work together as a leader, really with a set of visions, that we have set in order to better our community. Many of us, and I think all leaders in our community have done something special, as I said earlier, in the area of interest. The level of advocacy might not be the same. The target population that we work with on a regular basis might not be the same. However, we do our best to protect, but also to empower, because we all the same. And I always say that we might from different communities, I would say different folks, different talks, different background, but we do have the same understanding of what it takes to build, not to destroy, how to bridge the gap, how to elevate people, how to promote the basic right of someone who think is not part of the process. Being a co-chair of the Staten Island Immigrant Council, I have experienced a lot when it comes with people, interacting with people, yes. And again, this is what we need to reemphasize every single day. We live in one community. I don't believe in communities. And I strongly believe that we all, again, even other leaders in our constituency who are not here today, they deserve, right, to be recognized in their respective role. We all stakeholders, and we have come a long way. All of us work with law enforcement agency on a regular basis. I have been working with the NYPD in terms of really bridging the law enforcement agency and the communities so people can have a better understanding, what it takes to build. When I see different religious leaders from the church, from the synagogue, from the mosque, really being united in an interfaith initiative, that is meant to build. When I see the New York City Commission of Human Rights, what they do really to meet people where they are and walk them through the process, this is what it takes to build. Yes, advocacy is publicly expressing your support for or opposition for a cause. But I think, again, what we have been doing need to be recognized. And I say thank you to all of you in your respective role and different capacity of what you have done so far, to make a progress in our community. And I look forward again to work with all of you. And I have said that, the most important thing is to give. And when you give, you don't think that you gave, right? And that should be our moral obligations. And I think, yes, the largest room in the world is the room called improvement, and we're still improving things. And I think we're gonna get there. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to cut anybody else off for this question, but I feel like your answer just now kind of alluded to something that Kevin mentioned earlier. And this is this idea that some people aren't empowered in their seats. Some people don't feel confident in being able to say, oh, we can still make change. Things have changed over these number of years. And as long as we keep being advocates and as long as we continue participating in our advocacy, we will reach our goals. So what I was asking is, we do know that there are a lot of our civically engaged counterparts, and then there are a lot of us who are a lot less civically engaged. How are we reaching out to our less civically engaged counterparts? What are we telling them how are we calling out to them to draw them to action?
Yes, I'd love to speak more about that. I think it's specifically because this is a conversation grounded in Black History Month that I'd actually like to connect to last question, and bring it into this one, which is that in the Black community in America, and I really am so excited that we are including the entire diaspora of people of African descent, and with um, the response of Nelson Mandela, so that people really understand that the story of Black people doesn't start with enslavement in the Americas, but we have a rich history, and we stay connected to Africa. And so what I want to draw upon, which is that during, civic engagement in the Black community is historic, and the understanding that traditionally and historically, Black people, even as enslaved, an enslaved population, were engaged with and actively sought for a better life and progress. And so we have that as our history. What you see, though, when you have an oppressive system is that the force that is being oppressive doesn't necessarily want people to be empowered. And so I think that what has happened from the time period of emancipation till now is that dominant culture just like nipped away at the power of being engaged. So there are a lot of people in our community that we have to convince about their empowerment. Like you have a voice, your vote matters. Show up in different places. Go to these places that you perceive that you're not welcome in. Make a hullabaloo. I love the love talk. I probably am a little more feisty because I know that that sometimes change comes by speaking soft and carrying a big stick, if I may. So sometimes you do have to throw your weight around to let people know that you're not afraid of a revolution, and that revolution does come in form of peace, but it also comes in the form of if Black bodies can be violated by violence, like we can't ignore that. That's our reality, right? And so if we look historically at the way that people have engaged to make change, sometimes we have to stand up for ourselves. And what I want people to understand is that we have not been docile and laid down and not been engaged. And so if you believe that there's no place for you and making a difference and demanding the rights of the full rights, the 100% of what it means to be a citizen, that there is a space, and that it's always been. Like we talk about like icons like Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks is her story is told like she's this meek woman who just was so tired. If you know anything about Black women during that time, we weren't tired after working all day. That's what we did, right? I'm gonna risk being arrested because I'm so tired. You don't rest in central booking. You can't rest after getting arrested. She wasn't tired from work. She was tired of being walked on. And so she took a stand. Those are my nieces. They're getting excited. So that's what we have to understand, right? That we were always active. So we have a long history. So to the people who feel like there's no space for them to get involved, it doesn't matter. That is a narrative to make you stop, because it actually works. Rosa Parks wasn't tired. She was intentional. She was a warrior. She was prepared. She was strategic. They knew that the look of her, Rosa Parks had the look. There were other Black women who did the same thing. And Rosa Parks said, you know what? I am fairer skinned. I come in a package that people will listen to. I have a history that I'm putting my body. I'm gonna criminalize someone who would have never been a criminal. I'm going to allow them to fingerprint me. I'm gonna allow them to put me in handcuffs, right? So that I can move this work. And so that's our history. So the people who are believing that there's no place for them to get involved, you're like buying a narrative that's false because they don't want you to know how powerful you are.
Oh my goodness. That was fantastic. I was getting flashbacks to when I saw Angela Davis speak for the first time. You hit on so many wonderful points. I feel that too much has gone unspoken for a long time, and I think you kind of knocked it out the ballpark there. But I am going to ask for a couple of us to go ahead and add on top of that, because I know we still have more to say. I'm going to popcorn it over to Detective Rios, because I know you've seen people in some of their most hopeless moments where they're in that high stress situation, and I want to know, how do you tell someone you can still make positive change, you can still make positive impact?
I definitely love everything that Tanisha just said. But to touch on something that Abu mentioned was meeting people where they are. You have to understand. I always, one of the things that we do when we have like the new officers come in, we talk to them. We have members of this police department, of even this command, talk to them first before they go out. And one of the things I ask them, because all of us here are mostly Staten Islanders, and we know that we have a majority of white officers. And that's something that doesn't affect how we're policing, but it's always important to look at people from where they are. And you have to always mention and talk to people about, one thing I always ask, because you never know who's in the room and you never know what somebody's experienced. But I ask this question no matter what the new officers look like. I say, have you ever called 911? That's a question I always ask, because if you've never called 911, you may not understand and maybe it will help you understand the difference between going through a situation and saying, you know what, I don't really need the assistance of the police, and the difference between how extreme it has to be to want to call the police for help. How high of an anxiety you have to be in as a person to say, I need the help of the police. And what that means, coming into somebody's home, you're coming into their life. You're coming in there to help them make a decision. And you're hoping that every time you come into this situation, that you're making it better than when you came. So it's always about meeting people where they are and responding human, always being human, and always trying to be the change you want to see. And as being a Black officer, and an officer in general, if you want visibility, if you want representation, you have to let people see you. One of the things that I try to do is anytime I'm invited somewhere, I try to go, because a lot of people who need to be police officers are not police officers. A lot of people who need to be teachers are not teachers. A lot of people who need to be doctors, a lot of people who need to be social workers, they're not seeing themselves as these things. So they need to see somebody that looks like them walk into these situations and show them that this is who you were really meant to be. If you're feeling like a little tug on your heart that said, you know what, I always thought about that when I was a kid, and then we build on that. And then we try to encourage them to be who they were always meant to be.
Thank you so much. That was extremely insightful. I do love the fact that you touched on a part of like that training that goes on, making sure that people have that certain level of cultural competency, making sure that people are aware of the level that someone has to be at to reach out for certain types of help. And I think that's always important when we're trying to support a group, to understand where they're at and to meet them where they're at. Kevin, I saw that you were about to pop off a mute earlier. Did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yes, I would just like to piggyback off of what Tanisha Franks was saying, and in terms of really helping people get to where they need to be, especially involved in civic engagement, you have to form a relationship first. In order, you must meet them where they are, and then you must have the patience in order to form a relationship. If they don't see your views, and have the empathy to meet them where they are, and then work with them towards getting a mindset of civic engagement. A lot of times people are quite frankly trying to survive. You understand what I'm saying? So it's hard to get a mindset of civic engagement and affecting others when you don't feel like you're being helped, or when you feel like you have to crouch and crawl in order to just make an existence. So I really feel it's about, meeting people where they are and then creating that relationship. And through the relationship comes the trust. And that's what we must need in our communities. Again, we need the trust factor. And that's why a lot of us aren't civically engaged. I always, when I was a child, I grew up learning it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a child. And it's very true. It does take a village to raise a child. But a lot of times our people are viewing our village as not a village at all. But if they're viewing our village as a place that they can't grow as a person, they can't, foster and express themselves. And this is where, again, the leaders and civic leaders have to come in and form relationships, meet them where they are, build the trust factor so that you can change a mindset. It took generations for us to even get where we are now. And it took people laying the foundation like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., in order to change people's mindsets. But it took generations, and it took patience, time, relationship, trust. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. I just wanted to pop in. Like, I know we are just at about time, but I mean, we of course are more than welcome to continue this discussion because it really is insightful. I know we have a pretty packed panel. I just wanted to give a heads up in case any of our panelists have any other commitments at 5 o'clock. So to give you guys a chance to share some final thoughts, but if not, then I'm more than happy to keep going because it's great. I'll take that as a good sign. I kind of want to bounce off of what Kevin was saying, and it has taken a lot of generations. So I kind of would love to know all of your insights on how we can do so on like an intergenerational basis because we have so many. We have like a wide range of panelists on this panel. We have Kevin, who is a young leader, and we have so many others who have had so much life experience on being civic leaders on your own. So I kind of want to sort of tease that out and see how can we bring the conversation to encompass all these generations, like both the young and those that are adults. And yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things you have to look at is a unification of groups. No one individual, and if we look at the individuals that we had talked about, role models such as, you know, Thurgood Marshall, even bringing it locally to Debbie Rose, I feel that without a collective unification, you're not going to achieve much. And if you look back at uh, the systemic, and unfortunately, you have to bring this to the forefront, systemic racism. Staten Island has only had one elected African American to political office. That's Debbie Rose. Staten Island, um, after I had resigned and retired from the judge uh, position, there's only one black judge on Staten Island. That's Judge Green. Um, if you look at other roles that are being thrusted forward, especially during Black History Month, you don't have too many um, minority role representations on Staten Island. And that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. And it can only be addressed through a collective unification of old and young. Many of the individuals we had discussed were associated with the NAACP. But if you look currently at the local branch of the NAACP, you will find the majority of them are of an age that you do not have youth. You have a youth division, but the youth involvement in the local NAACP is limited. You need to have a unification of old, young, and everything in between to make things work. if you have to have political forbearance, you need to teach the youth how they can be politically savvy, how they can lobby. Right now, I don't think there are too many high school individuals that would know the first place to go if they have to lobby for change. That should be part of the mentoring role. And I was drawn to the fact that there's going to be mentoring Thursday. You have to have those that have experience, that are older, to get out and mentor the youth so that they can find their niche in society and bring them to the forefront so that you have a coalition of older, younger, and those in between. That is the whole thing. And possibly Detective Rios, I don't know if you recall, there was a young man, his name is Doug Ziegler. Doug Ziegler was the first 3-star chief in the NYPD. Doug Ziegler and I were partners. The point is, there has been a world of difference between the amount of African Americans that are on the police department now compared to when Doug was patrolling the streets. So there is change, but it's been a collective effort. The Detective Rios had mentioned Noble and the Guardians, organizations that I used to be a member of. Those are the type of collective unification of groups that will make change in the police department and also in society. So we need to have collective unification, have people get together, even with the immigrant communities, African Americans and Africans, unification. You need that type of change to make a larger change in Staten Island and the world in general.
Great, thank you so much, Judge Craig. That really was a very comprehensive and all-encompassing answer. Of course, I want to pop it over to Dr. Carolina. Do you have anything else you would like to add in terms of like how we can sort of bridge this intergenerational gap that exists?
Well, I think, I've sort of been forced into knowing some things in terms of music and lingo and fashion, simply because I have to remain engaged. So to a certain extent, there must be a willingness on the part of persons. I don't consider myself old or young. I'm somewhere in the middle. I have a 7-month-old baby, so I am going to have to stay young and current. So there has to be a willingness on the part of persons who are my seniors, like Say and Kevin and the Detective Rios and Tanisha. They're my seniors, so they have to do like us young people and be willing to stay engaged and to stay young, right, and to stay current. Human beings, I like to say this, human beings are creatures of habit. We're most comfortable with that for which we're most familiar. And that there has to be a conscious effort to become comfortable with that which is not familiar. And that's not natural. You have to be conscious of that. Back to Detective Rios' point with regard to NYPD. Look, I run an anti-violence initiative with formerly incarcerated men and women who are very, very closely tied to many people in our communities who are engaged in activity that may not be the same types of activity that many of us are engaged in. And so there has to be a willingness to meet people where they are, to bring them to what you believe to be a better position. Again, this is a conscious choice. So when you're talking about intergenerational, we have a seniors program, we have after school tutorial program, and Saturday Academy. All of this lends toward that whole intergenerational, that buzzwords that people love to say, but to make happen, it takes some sweat, takes a whole lot of candlelight burning, to bring people to a place of comfort to where they would not normally be comfortable. So again, consciously choosing to be in a place where you would not normally be, you know. Do I want to change Pampers? Well, yes, now, but maybe 10 months ago, no. Right, Judge?
That's correct.
Great, thank you so much, Dr. Carolina. That really was very insightful and so true. Do any of our other panelists have anything they'd like to add in? Kevin, would you like to chime in?
I'll keep it really quick because I know Ms. Tanisha Franks wants to say something already spoken, but just to piggyback on what Dr. Demetrius has said, you know, it goes back to what we've all been saying, you know, meeting each other where we're at, you know, and if we can meet each other without the judgment, because we must understand that we come from generational gaps, and the differences in our generational gaps are quite apparent, you know. So I love that Dr. Demetrius says, you know, just trying to understand instead of judging, you know, as well as speaking to the younger generation as well. We have to show respect. We cannot disrespect, even if we have a different viewpoint. You know, having the ear in order to listen, so that you can eventually learn. You know, but if you have to listen first in order for you to learn. So I just love that he spoke upon that. And I just, you know, want to encourage the young people to do the same, you know, understand and be open.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kevin. Tanisha, what would you like to add?
I wanted to make, and I'll be brief as well. I'll try. And please shut off my mic if it gets to be that I'm not. I have two things that have popped out to me. And one is, which is that very recently someone suggested that if you're in your mid 40s or above, which I am, happily, I will say that you should consider getting a mentor in their 20s. Not a mentee, a mentor. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant. I think that I have done that without realizing it, but being intentional about not thinking that you just have something to teach the younger generation, but also that they have something, and we know that as people who are experiencing, and I want to say, Kevin, and I don't want to get emotional. This was not what I was thinking of saying, that what you guys did with the action this summer, where you went across Staten Island, my heart sank, because the first thing I said was, you cannot do that. Because when I grew up, you could not do that. You could not do that. You could not be from a neighborhood like Park Hill or West Brighton and go to the South Shore. You couldn't do that. And so if I was telling you that and you listened to me, because that's what I wanted to tell you. I wanted to tell you, don't do that. When I saw you playing double dutch on the South Shore of Staten Island, I lost it, because I knew that if I had been in charge, that I would not have allowed you to do that. And we weren't in charge. So you broke through our fears, those things that we when we talk about systemic, people have to recognize what creates system, and fear is one of them. And you were not afraid because you didn't know what I know. When I was your age, we had young people who were hurt and killed for going into neighborhoods that they didn't, air quotes, belong. So your courage inspired us. So we shouldn't be thinking that we're the teachers only. We have to understand that that we can learn from you. And then the second point was that in terms of civic engagement, when we think about Black History Month, we have to understand that Black people are very well-rounded. Like, there's so much to us. We're broad, so you want to get culture. You want to know everything. You want to celebrate and acknowledge all of it, right? But we're having a conversation about civics. And civics has a lot to do with things that people don't want to talk about because of the taboo around getting engaged, like in politics or in these spaces. And when we look at someone like Thurgood Marshall, and we know on the Supreme Court who replaced him was Clarence Thomas. And when we look at somebody like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and know that the person that replaced her was Amy Coney Barrett, we have to engage with young people because we have to understand that pendulum swing. And so, and there's no like straight line to progress. And if you're not intentional, you'll slide back. You'll slide back because you weren't watching, you weren't paying attention, and you have a great man like Thurgood Marshall replaced by Clarence Thomas, and that's not an accident. And so if you don't pass the baton, if you don't build bridges, some of that, like people died. Thurgood Marshall sat on a bench and, you know, he came out of a very intentional legal effort. In that time, people were murdered for the rights that we have secured today. We can't allow that to go like to the wayside. We have to honor our ancestors and that they were willing to give up their lives. And if I don't pass the baton to Kevin, if Debbie didn't pass the baton to me, and then I don't pass it to Kevin, then the fact that Medgar Evers was murdered in his driveway with his children watching is like for naught. Like I have to every day carry that. I can't let that be for no reason. So if I don't engage with Kevin and I make it about me, then we're gonna end up, there's gonna be another Medgar Evers because that's the way it goes. So we have to be intentional. I am so happy to pass the baton and build those bridges and listen, because there's things I don't know how to do. Like, you know how long it took me to get my hands on Zoom Brown? I had one of the young people had come in here, they had to click on the thing. And so we have to know that we are not the end all and be all, and we don't know everything. And what Kevin is talking about, respect goes both ways. We have to respect young people, we have to listen to them, and we have to pave the way for them so that they understand when it's time for them to pave the way, they're ready to do that as well.
Oh, wow, that was just so amazing. Thank you. I don't even know what to say. I mean, I'd love to give everyone else a chance to jump off of that, to share their own insights. Abu Sa, do you want to say anything?
Yes, sir. Actually, in addition to what have been said by many of you, yes, the issue related to the generation gap, yes, is a consistent, and we need to also identify ways to what I say, leveraging the momentum of the time. The time has changed. I'm from Africa, yes, we deal with social norms, do, don't, very restricted, very structured, in a way where, you don't have no say, but it's 2021 again. And it's very important for us that we try to familiarize ourselves with this context. And the world has changed in a sense where the moment in time when issue of the day require actions, yes, action will be taken. By who? Yes, people say, yes, youth are more engaged. It's normal because they are the futures. And nowadays, youths are more engaged and, they can take a lead in many things. Yes, I always believe in youth empowerment program and socio-economic empowerment. I'm an active member of the of ACASI, African Coalition's Alliance of Staten Island, and this is what we do in our own community, is to empower, is to recruit and empower, because we see a lot of our children are in the process. Therefore, it's a moral obligation for us, to identify ways where we can help them, civic engagement, community participations, civic engagement for them. Yes, we need to really help them to understand that they need to be educated first, because it doesn't happen overnight. And someone mentioned it, there is something we call the psychological readiness. We have to be patient with people. That's number one. Number two, people have to be culturally competent. Cultural competency is key. Cultural diversity is key. People need to be trained. People need to be educated about that. Otherwise, what we're going to be dealing with closed-minded. The community is indivisible. People got to understand that. People with accent, people without accent, they're all part of the process. Now it's a way of empowerment by being patient with them. And also, yes, we cannot break the procedure when it's done in a way where it's inclusive, all stakeholders sitting, reflecting on, set priority when it comes to that, and say, yeah, we're always going to have a lot of priorities, but we have to be able also to sharpen our negotiation skills. It's all about negotiating. We cannot be pushy in a sense. Okay, do it that way. Yes, I have been there. When my parents say something, yes, I got it. Yes, mom. Yes, dad. So whatever. But it's also to be able to develop ability to negotiate in a variety of contexts. You meet people where they are, but those people also have their own belief system. You cannot go there and sit there and say, okay, no. We have to be very sensitive in our approach. I'm a social worker, and I usually use those clinical approach when it comes to, yes, what we call emotional intelligence, in a sense, yes. But again, credibility. As a leaders, there is some core values we have to, really embrace when it comes to integrity, expertise, yes, genuineness, sincerity in dealing with others in order to get what it takes to make improvement. No, this is what I have to say about that. And, we all on the same page on that, but it's just different way of articulating it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. Those are all such great answers. And I know we're almost at the hour-and-a-half mark, and I don't want to keep you all too long, but this conversation really is so great and so insightful. And I know we can keep going on for quite some more time. But I do want to give everyone, all of our panelists, a chance to say some final thoughts and final words. What are you hoping that people that are watching this panel, either live or in the recorded version later down the line, what are you hoping that they will gain from this panel? And I'd like to give a chance to Detective Rios first to speak on that.
A word that stood out so much is intentional. We need people who have a heart for what they're doing, and we need people to be intentional about their actions. And sometimes somebody's absence is a gift, because the people that need to be present will be present. And the people that are present just need to be intentional about what they're doing and hold one another accountable as a community. And if we continue to do that throughout anything, even something as simple as planting a community garden, the people that are involved with that, if everybody's there to work together, if everybody's there to, okay, you're in charge of seeds, you in charge of digging the little holes, you get the potters, everybody has their part. Everybody, and nobody's more valuable than the other. Each of us are equal in what we're bringing to the table, but it has to be intentional, and our heart has to be in it when we're doing anything we're doing in terms of the community and being civilly engaged.
Thank you very much. Couldn't have
civically engaged. Sorry,
couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you, Detective Rios. I'm gonna next pop it over to Kevin. What are your last thoughts, insights, hopes that people watching this will have gained?
Well, what the last thing I would want to say is a message to the youth. And the message to the youth is you can do it. And our journey, we're trying to figure out how our futures are going to be all in 1 year or two. We're trying to figure out if you want to go to college, if you want to do this, if you want to do that. And my message to you is you can do it. And you can also be civically engaged, which is plainly affecting your community in a positive manner. And please feel that you can do it in your own capacity. A lot of times as youth, we're trying to figure out money. We're trying to understand money, financial literacy, so doing the little things that you can do and using your imagination to affect your community counts as much as feeding a family, because you can get there. You can get to where you're feeding families, where you're doing coat drives and all these different things. But there's a process to it. I had to learn there's a process to everything. So if you can get started in your own capacity, then you'll be able to grow and go on to do bigger and better things. You can do it.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Abu Sai, would you like to add anything, any final thoughts?
Thank you, Stacy. So I would say that we shouldn't abandon hope or give up because we come from a long way and the struggle is still here and the struggle is part of our life. We learn, and we gotta figure out a way to overcome challenge. And the community is our communities. And it's very important for all of us, as we have done and we keep doing, is to foster reconciliation, social cohesion among us, and to keep educating and let not ignorance, destroy, because this setting is a perfect example. We are bound by sharing experience, and that experience can lead us to a lot of positive things. Yes, let's keep the momentum right. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Very powerful, very true words. Judge Greg, would you like to say anything, any final thoughts?
Well, I'm going to just seize on the statements that Kevin made. One of the things the Richmond County Black Minority Chamber has done is they have put together a youth initiative, and we are encouraging all entrepreneurs, but all those that want to learn about being self-sufficient. Um, the chamber has a financial boot camp that will teach you things about finances, about earning capacity, and even we put together an app so that those individuals that join the chamber will be part of the national American marketplace app for engagement of business and entrepreneurship. So we talked about collectively unification of groups, individuals of all ages. All I would say is I'm encouraging those that want to learn more about financial um, literacy, join the chamber. Um, Mentoring and what, Tanisha said, mentoring up and down will happen. And I just encourage all those youth and anyone out there who wants to have a better understanding about entrepreneurship to join the chamber and have a unification and a collectiveness with one.
Great, thank you, Judge Greg. I know Kevin asked in the chat, there's just a quick question. Is the training free of charge?
If they join, yes, it's basically free of charge. For youth, there's a membership fee of only $25 for the year, but that would give them access to all of the seminars, the meetings, and the lectures of the chamber.
Wonderful, thank you. Dr. Carolina, would you like to say some final thoughts and insights?
I was just going to put in the chat that I'm willing to sponsor, let's see, 25 a year, I'm willing to sponsor 4 youth for the chamber. So if you guys have 4 youth that want to become a part of the chamber, I will sponsor them. All right. Civil engagement and civil leadership is really a personal choice that has a public impact. That's what I would say. So everyone can be socially conscious. Everyone can be a civic leader. It is your choice. It is your right. And we would all benefit from it. And you don't need extra skills, talents, abilities. You just need you, because you are uniquely made and you have something that no one else has. You can be the best you can be. So everybody has a place and everybody has a role. That was what I would say. And that's what I hope you hear.
Thank you so much, Dr. Caroline. I know that echoes what Tanisha was saying before, especially when she was referencing Debbie Rose and how Debbie Rose is sort of one of your role models. So of course, Tanisha, I'd love to hear your final thoughts.
I would just say that, again, connecting to something I said earlier about I don't think you really set out. You just show up as your authentic self. And and you realize that your actions are change making. And I know that I have tried to mind my business, stay out of things, but you can't, because it's who you are. And so sometimes, because, I personally was invited here in relation to my profession. And one of the things that I tell young people when we're doing career conversations about, like what I want to be when I grow up is, there's that cliche about picking a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Like, I go one step further and say, be authentic, be your authentic self. Because when you are your authentic self, the work finds you. And so I was fortunate enough to have a career that is married to my civic engagement. But then outside of that, I would say it's super easy. Like, and we've all given example, whether it's like, donating your time, or look how that happened. We heard that the chamber cost a little bit of money. So we sponsor young, like that's what it's the way it works. It's like they're dominoes. It has to, and it's who you are. And so we want to build that into our future. So we want to cultivate that. But the way that you do it is you let people know how easy it is. It is super duper easy to get involved with something that you really care about. So like I'm looking at the judge, so I know that I'm looking at Abu, he's a social worker. I'm looking at Detective Rios and Dr. Carolina. I know what they're involved in, what their thing is. Everybody does their thing. That's what makes the citizenship whole. And so people have to feel empowered, and they have to know and recognize their strength, and that you can make a difference. It's as simple as whatever you want to do, just do it, and it will have an impact.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know Abu wants to say a few more things, so I'll give him a chance to do so.
So, and I'm just sorry, I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge State Assemblyman Charles Fall. Because why? Because he has done, and play a huge role, especially in the African community. Why I'm saying this, I don't usually, acknowledge just to acknowledge, because, and he actually play an essential role in really bridging the gap in the African community and in this Black Story Month, and I just wanted to acknowledge him. And I know why not to, list, some of his achievement in really bringing people together. And this is what we expect from a leader, someone who really mobilize resource, including people, because people are resource. And we have some outstanding, leaders in our community. And under his leadership, we start to see those people more visible. And that's what I want to say. And again, appreciate Stacy for this time. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. And I know before we end, I'd love to give a chance to my co-facilitator, Janira, to share her final thoughts and her final insights. So please go ahead.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Stacy and Michelle for inviting me to facilitate this panel. It was a wonderful opportunity, and I am so glad to have encountered each and every one of our panelists. As I mentioned before, I am a young girl from Brooklyn. I think I've only been on the island of Staten Island twice prior to last year. And taking this job with UAU and having all these experiences, I have learned a lot about the community that is Staten Island. I've heard someone say that people always say that Staten Island is the forgotten borough, but I think it's the unexpected borough. And I couldn't agree more with it after hearing this discussion. You all have shined such a bright light on the accomplishment of yourselves, on the accomplishment of people that you've seen come before you, and on the bright future that each and every single one of you see coming from Staten Island. So I really do thank you all, being a wonderful support. Thank you for letting me see what a beautiful community Staten Island can be. Thank you for allowing me to have this wonderful discussion with you. And it honestly is very inspiring as I go into tomorrow and next week working with my Staten Island based youth. And I hope to be able to show them clips and maybe hopefully the full video, if some of them will actually watch it with me, to be able to say, look at the wonderful people making your community a better place. And as I try to teach them the ways of civic engagement and help them through their service learning projects, I hope that your words can resonate with them as well. And I hope that we all grow and continue to grow. So thank you all for the opportunity. Thank you for being here, and thank you for staying after. You all had wonderful insights, and I'm going to keep tabs on each and every one of you because I know you guys will all continue to do great things.
Yeah, thank you, Janira, for a wonderful way to wrap us up. I don't want to keep us too long either. Janira pretty much said it all, as have you all too. So again, tremendous, huge thank you to all of you for taking the time and also for staying way after our intended panel. Sort of allotted time, but thank you all so much. This conversation that we continued tonight to this evening has been really amazing, and I hope we can definitely talk and continue this in the future. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.